Well, welcome back to Wake Up Weekend. I'm still Carl Higbie. Thousands and thousands of troops are still preparing for battle at the border between Russia and Ukraine, though the U.S. support still remains to be seen. But is it a little too late? Here to discuss, please welcome former C-17 combatant commander and United States Deputy Military Representative to NATO, General Blaine Holt. General, appreciate you being here.
Good morning, Carl. It's good to see you again.
All right. So with this whole thing, I mean, look, we can put troops to defend someone else's borders 7,000 miles away. We can't defend our own borders. However, how far away do you think we are from an actual physical conflict here?
Well, my hope is that we're not going to see that conflict, of course. But we are seeing all the indicators and warnings, like we like to say in military parlance, that something is rising towards an outcome here militarily. Yeah. The talks that we see are very interesting because you have to get into Putin's head about what is his actual prize that he's after. Is he, the concessions that he's demanding from NATO, he's already met with the resounding no that he knew he likely would meet with. And so is this just about getting a land bridge to Crimea? Is it about rattling swords to test for Western weakness? I believe that the ultimate target is NATO unity itself. Yeah. And it may not require him to invade anything to achieve that division between East and Western Europe in NATO.
Yeah, well, you know as well as anyone, sir, that to mobilize 120,000 troops, just to give folks at home a perspective of that, Yankee Stadium holds about 48,000 people. So that's 2.5 Yankee stadiums of troops on the border. They are mobilizing support for that. They need food. They need water. They need a place to stay. Like, this is a massive movement, and you don't do that for no reason. Germany, big player on this stage. Are they going to make a move? Are they going to do stuff? And how does Biden get behind anything they do, even if he disagrees with it?
Right. So we do seem to be behind the curve on responding to the rise in force structure that happened, just after the fall of Afghanistan, which was probably very predictable because of our weakness and our disaster there.
Literally everybody saw that coming.
Well, resembled Syria back when Crimea fell right before that. But to get to the point, the force structure that you're seeing is more than enough required to take Ukraine and to go beyond. And so if he wants to have Ukraine and threaten Western Europe, he certainly has the force, posture, and structure to do it. You raise a great point. A logistics tail like this is extremely expensive. So with the coming thaw for those tanks and the cost imposition on Russia to hold those forces there, I do believe we're going to see this come to a head either way in the next week or two.
Yeah, so let's talk about that red line. Barack Obama, back with Syria, drew the red line in the sand. They walked right over that line, and Obama basically did nothing. What is the red line here? I mean, Biden talked about a minor incursion. Markets went absolutely crazy over it. They said, what are you doing here? There's no definitive red line right now. What do you see that?
Right. So our words have not really had a lot of punch in them because they're broad. They're not, we're going to take out Spare Bank tomorrow and make you unbankable in the world commons. We're not saying that. We're saying we'll have tremendously difficult sanctions. Well, what's wrong with having them now? We've got forces that are ring circling NATO partner that fought alongside of us in Afghanistan.
That to me, absolutely on point. So the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Mark Milley, we all know that his competency level, yet he said this yesterday, that the U.S. still needs to focus on a diplomatic path. Listen to this.
It's the policy of the United States government to continue to support an independent Ukraine in their goals. And we are continuing our effort to enhance their ability to protect themselves. We strongly encourage Russia to stand down and to pursue a resolution through diplomacy.
Well, we have, a state rep in Connecticut who could give a better, more aggressive speech than that. I mean, is diplomacy even an option at this point, or is basically Putin just tuned us out?
I think diplomacy is really an option. In fact, I would say that Putin is probably the world's best poker player. If you look at Russia, he's playing a pair of twos. I don't think he really wants to find out what the Russian army has capability-wise and put them out on the world stage. And at the same time, we have all the levers necessary without firing a bullet to settle Russia down and take them out of the world economy for a little while.
Yeah, that's the thing that I don't understand, General, and most people don't understand this. We could steamroll their military tomorrow if we wanted to. Right. We have a dozen carrier battle groups that can launch planes every 30 seconds, fly, I mean, we have aircraft carriers that go faster than jet skis, and we can't somehow put this guy back in the box that he came from. I got to ask. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. After 20 years of a war that went to nowhere but a disaster,
right?
I would say maybe just like Churchill used to say, well, now we'll have to use our brains because we're out of money. Well, and maybe now it's time to get into these diplomatic sanctions and shut them down in advance of firing a shot.
Well, 100%. But if they don't believe we'll back this up with our military might, I mean, look, like we rolled over the Iraqi army, the world's 5th largest army, in less time than it took us to get to the moon.
Exactly.
I mean, 4 days. We could do any of that. We don't want to, but they need to know that we're willing to. And that was, I think, Trump's advantage was they were like, we don't know how far this guy will go. And yeah, it's crazy.
Historically, if we get backed into a corner because we've been on a weakness track, if you look at the entry into World War II and the entry into World War I, we come out swinging and we never miss.
Right.
And that's the power of the U.S. Army. And what I would say is that history is not lost on Putin and Lavrov. They understand that nexus. I would take Zelensky's cue and say, hey, doing things like evacuating my cities and saying invasion is imminent is not really helpful right now while I'm trying to button down this country. So maybe we should partner up a little bit more with our partner and work very carefully and closely with the Ukrainians.
But the real important thing, General, here, thank God they're making everybody get vaccinated in the military. I mean, how could Russia possibly get with us with that? So, all right, General Blaine Holt, we appreciate you joining us.
Carl, appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. As we've been telling you, and if